Hello everybody, welcome back to another Kerbal Space Program video, and welcome to a video that I have been working on for a long time. And I'm really excited to get this one out to you guys. This is a fully stock recreation of the Starship and Super Heavy vehicles. Yeah, I've been really excited for this one, guys. So we're going to be doing a Duna and back mission with this craft, just like the real Starship will hopefully do, except, you know, Mars, not Duna. Real life isn't a video game, but I mean, maybe it is simulation theory, right? But we are now in the air, in the time-lapse, and firing the vectors, which are way overpowered for this build, so I'm actually going to be throttling them down just a little bit, just so it's a little more realistic. The Super Heavy booster is the bottom stage of Starship, or the Starship stack, as what it's known as, and it is going to be propelling us just about over 15 kilometers in altitude. Once it is done with its burn, it will detach from our Starship, and then we'll turn around and do a boost back burn and fly back to the Kerbal Space Center, just like the real Super Heavy booster. As we cross 10 kilometers now, just beginning to pitch over a little bit more as we get close to our first stage separation, in which Starship will then be on its own and will be firing its 3 Raptor engines, or its 3 vacuum optimized Raptor engines, which I'm using the Wolfhound as my analog. So their stage separation, and that booster will get ready to head back. We can get the booster cam turned on at the top left corner. There it is, doing its boost back burn to head back to the Kerbal Space Center. While that is happening, Starship is continuing its pitch over maneuver, just crossing 40 kilometers, firing its engines to get itself into orbit and get ready to do its get on its journey out to Duna. Now, the Super Heavy has just deployed its grid fins after it has finished its boost back burn, and is now going to be falling back towards the KSP. We'll go into full screen mode of the booster as it just crosses about 14 kilometers now. We're going to be relighting the engines at around 6 kilometers above the ground, 6.5 kilometers-ish, to do the landing burn to hopefully bring the booster right back at the KSP. So they're relighting the engines, now going to be increasing the throttle in just a few seconds just so we can time that burn perfectly. We want to make this as efficient as possible because we really don't have that much delta V to spare. And coming down right next to the vehicle assembly building, and there we go. That is most of the velocity scrubbed off now, just doing the last few meters a second. Next throttle nice and low for a nice and gentle landing. And there it is. The booster has come back right in front of the vehicle assembly building, so they can just wheel it back in and refurbish it and fly it up. And whatever they want to do. In real life, SpaceX are saying they're going to land on the launch pad. I don't know. Elon has some pretty crazy ideas. Yeah, now the Starship upper stage is basically flying flat now, just getting itself into orbit the last few hundred meters of second, and there it goes. Has its APWAP set, and it will head on up to orbit. So if you're watching the video at the time of the release, you know, it's well, what I've called Starship Day. It's going to be the SN8 hop, so that's pretty epic. Yeah, I tried to get this video out in time for the hop. I think it'd be really cool. You know, it's Starship time, right? And I plan on doing a few more Starship videos. I think doing like an evolution of Starship, really cool, where I show like all the older, where I recreate some of the older like abandoned designs for Starship before they iterated to this thing. But we are now getting into orbit now with our new Wolfhounds, rather. If you couldn't notice, we don't really have enough fuel to go to Duna and back, do we? Would you look at that? Yeah, another feature, if you don't know about Starship, that is pretty important to it, is orbital refueling. So, a Starship does not have enough fuel to get all the way out to Mars on its own, so it does need to get refueled by a tanker Starship in low Earth orbit before we can head out to Mars, or in this case, you know, Duna, the KSP. So we have now our 2 Starships, and they actually dock back to back, which is actually a really cool thing to do, or it's really kind of weird. Because I don't know how they're going to do it. They're going to have to like line up fuel lines and stuff in the skirt of the... It's kind of nuts, but I'm sure Marcus House has some great videos on it, so you can look at that. So doing a little bit of docking shenanigans, because I'm bad at docking, but yeah. Lining up the 2 vehicles, and I have advanced grabbing unit on the tanker Starship, so I didn't really have to mess with docking ports. It kind of like messed up the look, but now just opening up that advanced grabbing unit, which will grab on to the Starship, and any day now. Gotta get nice and slow, nice, and there we go. We are now docked up. There's a little bit of gap, which really doesn't exist in real life because you really be docking like literally the 2 starships, the fuel lines together, but That's good enough. So now I can just get ready to do our propellant transfer from the tanker Starship to the main Starship and get it completely refilled. And before we do that, we have to get some nice views. That looks really cool. But yeah, so I'm just going to crossfade over to separation of the two starships because I don't want to see the fuel transfer is boring. Yeah, so that is the two starships separated. Now we can get ready to plan our trajectory out to Duna. So while we're doing that planning and that interplanetary burn, I would like to thank everyone for all the subscribers. I got these last 3 days. I don't know if it's because of like Starship hype or something, and like there's a lot of people watching KSP and like space-related channels, but I've just gotten so much. It's like I got like I think 150 subs in the last 3 days, so that's pretty epic, guys. So thanks everyone for subscribing, and also the Discord was just crazy today. I don't know. We were talking about weird stuff. Apparently, I got married. So yeah, if you want to join the Discord, there will be a link. I don't want to do too much plugs, but I do have a goal to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so let's see if that can happen. Been looking good the last few days, so I'm pretty excited. So thank you guys very much. Yeah, so we are now just doing our correction burn and going to head up to Duna, and it looks like we have made it. And now we're just pointing radial out, trying to get as much drag into the airstream as possible. And on this build, the fins can actually move. So the fins are deactivated right now, just because I'm trying to get as much drag as possible. And if I start turning them, then I'll start reducing. And it's maintaining radial out with no problems. So it does take, I believe, 2 passes of Duna to get ourselves landed. And I purposely did that so we were able to do as much slowing down as possible in the upper atmosphere, or because you don't really want it coming in too low because then you won't have enough time. You want to use as much atmosphere. You want to use the atmosphere to brake as much as possible because you want to use as little engine burning as possible, just like the real Starship. So I have activated the fins, and they will be used quite a bit during this second re-entry, which is kind of like a belly. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys know how the Starship belly flop works. We'll do a more legit belly flop back on Kerbin when we head back, because you can't really do a full belly flop here on Duna because there isn't enough atmosphere to slow you down. But we can do a sort of belly flop. So the way it's going to work is we're going to be coming in. We don't know what it would really do in real life. So this is kind of just a guess. Yeah, because SpaceX hasn't put up too much information about their Mars plans. I'm just not even sure if they know. So yeah, just trying to use those fins to keep us pointed radial out as much as possible as we try to burn off as much speed as possible in order to get ourselves as slow as possible when we do the engine relight, because we do not have a whole lot of fuel to land us and get us back to Kerbin. But there we go, lighting up the Raptor sea level engines. It's actually kind of strange. I don't understand why they do that, but I believe from the simulations they have shown, they do plan on using the sea level engines to land on Mars. So I guess they have some information, which I think is a little weird because I don't. But either way, it's what SpaceX does. What SpaceX will do, which is actually pretty epic most of the time. So yeah. So just trying to get that burn timed nicely. Got it timed okay as we just descend through about 600 meters. Now just scrubbing off the last few meters a second. This is like the exact same thing I said for the Super Heavy. I don't have a script, I guess. Some people said I should have a script. I don't know. Maybe. But now we're pretty much almost canceled out all of our horizontal velocity. So I am going to point ourselves radial out and deploy the landing legs. And now we're just going to bring it in nice and slowly to the surface of Duna. Just want to get a very nice landing on a pretty flat spot, which is pretty cool. So yeah, just coming in nice and slowly, and touchdown. Welcome to Duna. That was a good flight, wasn't it? So yeah, not much we really can do. We didn't actually bring Kerbals because you can't like EVA a Kerbal because this thing is made out of fairings. So we're just going to take some nice pictures with Duna with Ike in the background, and then we can get ourselves ready to head straight back to Kerbin. Want to keep the action up. So I have undeployed the fins, got them back in their standard position, and then we can get ready to fire up the sea level engines. And I'm going to switch quickly to the vacuum engines because I do not have a lot of delta V to spare, because remember we have to get all the way into orbit and we have to have enough fuel to do our landing burn back on Kerbin after do the belly flop, which is pretty nuts. The belly flop in my opinion, is like the craziest part of Starship. Like the fact that it like flops forward and the flip, that's so sketchy in my view. So let's see. Hopefully, I mean, you know, if you're seeing this video more than like probably an hour after it's released, you'll already know what happened with the Ascent 8 hop, or maybe I'm gonna release this video after the Ascent. It just depends on when the hop will happen. All doesn't really matter in the future because it's probably all happened in the past. So let's see how much my words have been dated. But now we're getting just about closer to the upper atmosphere of Duna, flying basically flat, trying to get as close as possible to orbital velocity. Well, I mean, obviously we get into orbital velocity. The real Starship, I believe, would get refueled on Mars. It would have other starships that would land before it or something and have like a refinery and like make fuel and stuff. But that would have required like the building of a surface base. And actually, it turns out my Starship actually had enough Delta V to make it back. So we're doing this way. Yeah, so getting ready to get into orbit. While we're doing that, I would like to address the one little problem with my design. I know I'm like the best builder in KSP ever, but there's one little problem. Those fairings, right? I can't see it now because we're in the map viewer planning. Our maneuver node is gonna do our transfer window, and then we'll get back. We do the maneuver node planning. Yeah. So when I show another shot of Starship, which will happen in a few seconds here, you'll see that I had to do two. You have to do two different fairings to act. You have to. To actually get for it to work at all, just like that's the way the editor works. I mean, so there's like that white line circly thing around the bottom, which is because it's where the two fairings split. So that's a major annoyance. I mean, in theory, you could have like done like the smaller fairings and then like made them widen out and then meet at the middle. That could have worked, but I didn't realize that I could do. I didn't think of doing that until like weeks after I'd started working on this thing, and I really didn't want to like have to redo it would have been difficult, long story short. But yeah, that's the one kind of thing that does kind of annoy me. It is slightly inaccurate, but who cares? I don't know, maybe some people. I kind of care. So now we're planning our return to Kerbin now. Just like Duna, we're not going to be able to do our Kerbin re-entry in one pass. We're going to have to do it in actually, I believe we do it in 3 passes actually on Kerbin. Yeah, it's because the atmosphere. I'm sure you're aware, Kerbin has a very, very thick atmosphere. So yeah, we're not able to. We would explode if we would have come in just the one pass. So I mean, the temperature gauges are pretty hot. We have to like deploy the fins and like try and like fold them in so they don't explode. I have to kind of mess around with it, but eventually we get through the first heating wave, which is by far the most difficult re-entry, or the most difficult re-entry in terms of most difficult pass rather in terms of heating. Now we'll go time warp back around to our second pass, where we have to get this one timed pretty carefully because we don't want to be landing on this one because we are over the ocean, so we want to keep ourselves in or apwaps above the Kármán line, or above 70 kilometers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly basically flat after I do a little bit of braking, so we can make sure we get back into space and have enough energy to do one final pass of Kerbin before we do this is our landing pass. So just angling in, radial out, and we have. Wow, just descended, had a weird swallow there. Just descended through about 55 kilometers now, just starting to, I believe the fins are not yet deployed, but I will I will activate them, I guess is the correct word, as we get a little bit lower, and the reaction wheels on board the craft aren't strong enough to maintain alignment with radial out. But there you go. We have them activated. Now we are just starting to kind of see the craft bob around as I give control inputs. A lot of bobbing there. We'll do a quick save, and here we are coming down the final stages of our re-entry. We are starting to burn off those last few hundred meters a second of horizontal velocity as we can begin to dip the nose down and enter the craziest part of this flight, which is the belly flop maneuver, where we kind of come in nice and flat, kind of like a skydiver. This thing is super hard to control. You do a little bit of spinnies, but yeah, keeping those fins moving. We have some burner engines which are helping us a little bit maintain stability. We do not have a lot of delta V left, only about 500 meters a second to do that landing burn. As we get nice and low, just about at 1 kilometer, we are going to fold those fins in, hit retrograde, and begin firing the engines. and coming in now, reducing the throttle and bringing the landing legs out as we have the last 100 meters of second of Delta V as we come down through about 30 meters and welcome back. We made it. Yeah, not a good flight. Success. We did it. And now the thing is kind of walking down the mountain there. So I guess that's what happens when you use pistons as your landing legs. But successful mission. We did it. That was good fun. I really enjoyed filming this video. It's like almost 4 a.m. right now, and I'm like going to be streaming tomorrow, starting at like 8:30 a.m. probably, maybe 9. So I'm gonna have to wake up at like 8. So not getting a lot of sleep tonight. It's gonna be like 4 hours at best, probably 3.5. So I guess it'll be a long nap for me tomorrow. But either way, enough about me. That is the end of the video. So I'd like to thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Please rate or comment to this video. Once again, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time, and bye.